So, and I think that develops with our children. If we're homeschooling our children and we begin to recognize those differences, we can then begin to appreciate those differences and learn to work with those things, as opposed to, because if we're working together, if we're coming from two different places and we're working together because we have different strengths, then we ought to be able to accomplish our goal easier than we would if we were both the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was going to ask, maybe around what age do you think you can really see what a child's personality is going to be? Because I feel like my kids, mine are not, they're 9 and 12, and I'm about to have another one here almost any day. So pray for me. Wish me luck. But I feel like they've changed, because again, and that's what's so amazing about being a parent is you're getting to see this little person, go from a tiny baby, slowly, becoming an adult. And you are, kind of creating barriers for them as needed. So that's kind of question number one, is at what point do you really start to see the child's personality? And then number two, as a parent, when you're looking at their personality, and again, when we've talked about some personalities, the D is a little bit more dominating. How do you, instead of scolding the child and kind of making them feel bad for that, maybe that natural tendency, how do you help them to develop, instead of being maybe bossy, being a leader, and how do you kind of create boundaries around some of the weakness? Some of the personalities can kind of, if we delve too far, it can be harmful. It can harm communication. So how do you help a child understanding who they are, where they're coming from, but then also help them to, find the strengths in their personality?
Right. First of all, and you can probably quote statistics and things better than I can, but your personality is solidified at a very young age.
Yes. Probably as young as 3 months.
Right. So that's there and it doesn't change. But as a child, a child is learning to operate within this world, around them. And so you're going to see different things show and then ease back, and it's going to look as if they're changing. They're not really changing. They're learning to adapt to their environment. And I can look now, like at Ella, she's 14 now, but I can look now and see things that she does and go, oh, that's what that was when you were 3. I see it now. So I think that you see it at a very early age, but I think that you kind of you put it all together when they get a little bit older, and I don't know what age that would be. I know that as Ella, when she got to be 5, 6, 7 years old, I began to really see a more solid example of her personality. But now I recognize it from a much earlier age because I see what those solid things are.
Theoretically, your personality doesn't change. What does change is the way that you interact with your environment. If I have a very people-oriented personality and I have 2 parents that are very task-oriented, you can rest assured when they're a teenager, there's going to be conflict. Unless the parents recognize that there are differences in. I think that there's something to be said about raising up a child in the way they will go, not raising up a child to clone yourself, and learning to appreciate, like you used your son as an example, learning to appreciate that he sees life through a different lens than you do. Doesn't make him wrong. It actually makes him unique, and value that. So one of the things that we did with our daughter is that we wanted her to have her personality. We didn't want to change that in her personality. So we actually we explained the different personality types and let her know, because she'll come to us now and she'll say, well, their personality is different than mine. They think like this, or they process information like this. And we'll say, yep, you're absolutely right. And what that has done is what I call given her class to be able to connect with people who have different personalities. And at the same time, not apologize for hers, not because like I said, it doesn't make her weak because she has a different personality. I want her to be herself. I don't want her to be anyone else. I don't want her to be me. I don't want her to be her mother. I want her to be her. And sometimes that's difficult because we're educating, we are correcting, we're doing everything that we're doing out of our personality style, out of our person, because that's our slant. That's what we do. It's reaction. It's not. So unless you really, as a parent, unless you take the time to really process that and know what your personality is and know what your child's personality is, you have to be real careful that you're not like someone with I hate to be this focus here, but someone that is a high D. You want them to be a high D, because they're going to be the people they're going to direct the world. At the same time, my personality type would go, ooh, hey, you shouldn't have said that. That might have hurt somebody's feelings. Well, people that are high Ds don't think about people's feelings. They're thinking about the task, So I didn't want to take that away from her, but at the same time, I wanted her to be able to appreciate some diplomacy in what it is and how it is that she communicates. So it was important for her to know that. And I think she's done an exceptionally good job, and her mom has done an exceptionally good job at recognizing when that's happening and not correcting, but just shedding a light on it.
Yeah, the practical side of that, like our example of that with our daughter, is that she was the leader when she was little. It didn't matter, what was going on. She was the leader. She was going to direct the events, and you were going to do it the way she wanted it done, because that was the right way to do it. And so, and she now, and we would direct her and guide her in the fact that, you are a leader, but it's not always your job to lead. It's not it might not be your responsibility, or this, and so now, and even, as she got older, we would go back and watch videos of her interacting with her friends. Like, we would just be watching these family videos for fun, and she'll look at those and go, man, I was bossy. Why was I so bossy? And we were able to explain, because you are a leader. This is your personality type. This is who you are. And so those things come out of leading, but you can see now how that was maybe a negative way to handle a situation. And you can still be a leader and handle it in a way that's more positive, that gives other people an opportunity to take ownership of something and guide and move forward. It doesn't always have to be you, the one giving the direction. You can actually empower somebody else to be able to do that too. So those are the kinds of things that we've kind of talked about and dealt with that part of her personality growing up.
Okay. Yeah, and you're trying to esteem her, while also, giving the boundaries.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask too, have you ever seen where, because as a parent, again, I have 2 children, but I know people have, tons of children. And even with my 2, there's times when I see parts of their personality that I connect with, because it's kind of coming from me. And so I connect with that, but then with the other child, I don't have that. And then at times I'm afraid I don't want that to become a struggle, because it's so easy with this child because we're alike in this area, but then with this one, maybe we're not. So then it becomes.
I just like that one better.
What?
I just like that child better.
It's not so much that, but I think at times,
no, I'm just thinking.
Certain things are just, okay, this is just so much easier because we get each other in this area, but maybe with another child, we don't. And so how do we avoid creating conflict with the other child? Because maybe that child is seeing, hey, they connect in this way and I don't have that. So what are some, things to kind of be on the lookout for to keep that from creating, struggles even between the siblings, where they see, oh, well, mom connects with this child, dad connects with this one. How can we, kind of mitigate that?
I think that knowledge is power. And I think that the more that they understand what we're talking about, the more you communicate with them as it relates to what we're talking about, then they will appreciate it. Like our daughter now is 14 years old, and she has a much better understanding of how personalities work, because we always explain things to her not trying to change her, but I think it's about communication. Communicate. Now, here's something that I learned from a wise woman. She said, you have to be the adult in the room. You have to be the adult, which means that you have higher reasoning ability than your child does. So therefore, you have to be able to look at a situation and reason what the problem is, and then be able to approach it in such a way that you're not tearing your child down. As a matter of fact, the goal is to build your child up. But you have to be the adult. Don't leave that. Don't put that on the kids' shoulders, because if you do, you're just going to induce guilt and shame. And that's the last thing that you want. What you want to do is be the adult in the room and just simply explain, well, your sister's personality is different than yours. And there's probably just some things, just like your personality is different, and you may connect with your dad a little bit better in this direction or in this, what I mean? But highlighting those positives and saying, just be aware of the fact that when I'm connecting with your sister, it's because we just connect on that. It's just we understand each other at a better level. It doesn't mean that, you and I can work on it. You and I can work through it. If you'll help me, we'll be able to work through this and maybe be able to, what I'm saying, use it as a teaching opportunity. And so knowledge is power. And the more you communicate with them and let them know there's not something wrong with them, they're just different, and different is good because different is unique, and unique is, from where I sit in the eyes of God, that's special. Mm-hmm. I mean, every child is unique. Every child, and that means that one child may grow up and have a desire to be a brain surgeon, and another child may grow up and desire to be a starving artist. Who knows? But the point is that I don't want them to grow up and be me. I want them to grow up and be them. And so in answer to your question, in simple terms, I think it's be the adult. Recognize that you're the adult in the room, and they don't have the ability to reason like you. Now, they may think they do. Trust me, when they're 14, they really do believe they do. But you have to be the adult, and you have to be able to process that information. Be the parent. So I think that's the key is knowledge, explaining, sitting down and saying, I notice that you recognize that we get along better with this particular thing than in this circumstance than you and I do in that same circumstance. Let me tell you why. It doesn't mean that I love you less. It just means this, and just explain it to them.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And yeah, like you said, I kind of went through a season of really struggling with this, and I realized I had to do something different, because I was like, my kids don't want to be around me if I'm just mean, angry all the time. They want a joyful, parent to be around, and only I can control that. So, and like I said, a lot of kind of coming through this process, had a lot to hopefully getting over that. Not that there's not still struggles. Nobody's perfect, but